Hello, my name is Carrie and I am the Holistic Health Consultant. I have worked in healthcare for almost a decade as a nurse practitioner, and I am a certified personal trainer. I truly believe in whole body, head to toe health, and that is what this is all about. This is the Holistic Health Hot Seat, and I'm so excited that you are here. I truly believe in empowering you with education and resources to make decisions about your health. I'll be interviewing women about their health journeys, health experiences, different healing modalities, and the research that they've done, giving you an idea of what might help you. So let's get started. Hello, I am Carrie, the Holistic Health Consultant, and this is the Holistic Health Hot Seat. I'm so excited that you are here today. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of the awesome interviews. Today I am here with Alisha, and I'm really excited for our conversation. I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm Alisha. I'm the abuse coach, and I'm excited to be on this podcast interview, whatever this is, because it is such an amazing time to actually start focusing on what you want to grow in and what you need to change in your life. And so for me, really, that happened at a young age. So I had a pretty normal childhood. I grew up, normal. I grew up all over, actually.
As normal as it can be, right?
I was like, yeah, I grew up in China and all these things, and people were like, did you just say China? And I'm like, oh yeah. So like, normal for me. So I grew up with a family, like my dad is a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and so we grew up just like traveling a lot. My dad is a doctor in China, and so we, when we were there, it was an amazing childhood, like just learning new things, seeing new people. And what really started changing for me was when we moved back, and this family member particularly started treating me differently. And I remember just thinking like, at first I was like, okay, like this is different. This is not usually how we would play, because it would be like, games like, just these simple games that started turning into like more physical touch games. But deep down I was like, I know this is not okay. And so I started doing like things where I was like, can you stop? Please stop. And at that point, this family member would always say like, hey, this is actually normal. This is what you do with this kind of family members. And so I went on for a while, and so I was 11 years old when it started, and it went on to 13. But throughout that time, it was really a time of confusion for me. And then I started feeling really shameful about it, because I was like, I need to tell someone, I need to do something, I needed to stop. But for me, I was like, he said, he's like, no one's gonna believe you anyways, and everyone's gonna think this is your fault. They're gonna think it's weird. And so I was like, okay, who do I tell? And when I finally decided to tell one of my friends, I was like, do you do this with one of your family members? And they're like, no, not at all. And so and she's like, why are you asking me this? And I was like, oh, no, never mind. It's not a big deal. And I brushed it off. And because I was like, oh gosh, like, yeah, this is weird. She's gonna think I'm weird. And so I ended up going from like, not really telling anyone. And the way I coped with that was I started cutting myself. I started drinking. I started doing stuff with other guys. And, I would go to school. I would have a ton of friends. I would be on the volleyball basketball team. I looked really happy. But I had put up a mask that I was okay and that I wasn't going to tell anyone. And really where that shifted even worse actually was when my mom had come to me and she was like, Alisha, I know what's going on with you and this family member, and I want to hear your side of the story. And so I was like, oh, finally someone knows. I was like, finally someone knows about what's going on. And so I told her what little I could, that much, because I still had a lot of shame behind it. And I didn't even really know what the word sexual abuse meant. I had never heard anyone talk about it. My parents had never mentioned anything. So I got a little bit out. And then she looked at me and she said, Alisha, it takes two. And so when she said that, that kind of reaffirmed to me that it was my fault, and that I should have, told somebody, I should have gotten help. And so like all these things. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That is my fault. So I put on a mask even more. So that was like when I was 13. And so I went throughout high school, went throughout college, partying, drinking, doing stuff with guys, like I said, cutting, all that kind of stuff, until, it was until after college where I was working at this home for girls who've gone through sex trafficking actually here in Arizona. And I was like, I love this. Like, I finally found my passion. But I would come home and my amazing fiance, I would like let it all out on him. I would always be complaining or saying how tired I was, because I wasn't just working with the girls who's gone sex trafficking. I was like bartending, I was going to college, I was trying to have a relationship.
Oh my God.
So I was like so busy. I was trying to stay busy all the time, because like at that point that felt good to me. Not having to sit alone, because I never could sit alone and hang out with myself. So at that point I was complaining to him, and one day he just like looked at me and he was like, Alisha, like, you have a choice right now to either continue on this path or to realize that you have never helped yourself. So how are you helping these girls? And I was like, oh, I did not want to hear that. I was like, it took a few days. No, I think it took like a day, and I was just like, how dare he say that? Like, I'm fine, because I put up that, I was like defensive, like fine again. But when I really looked at it, I was like, actually, no, I'm not fine. Like, clearly, like, someone who's happy and someone who loves their life doesn't just drink until they're drunk every night, doesn't forget about the night, doesn't do all this stuff. And so those were like clear signs, but I wasn't willing to look at that until he really said that, and I was like, oh, okay. So actually, I stopped working with those girls, and I took that year to really focus on who I was and figure out who's Alisha G anyways. Right. Like, I had asked myself like those questions. It like felt like I didn't even know what my favorite color was. It felt like I didn't even know like what I love to do, because for so long I had put up a mask. I'm like pleasing other people, serving other people, always showing up for others, but never showing up for myself. And so during that transition, like, some of the things that really like supported me, and the biggest things was actually starting to have a plan for my life. And to be like, okay, like, I don't just get to wake up in the morning and rush to work and go do, whatever during the day. But I want to start my morning strong. I want to actually wake up, go to the gym, because for me, the gym was a place that even during the abuse, I had always grown up going to the gym and having that spot for, like, I felt safe there. I felt physically, mentally strong. And so I was like, this is a place where I need to go back to. So I started going back to the gym. I started having a routine of actually, giving my body what it needed as far as nutrition. But really, like, where I saw the biggest change was, for one, acknowledging that I wasn't okay. Like, really realizing like that, okay, this is clearly still affecting me, and that's okay. And realizing that, like, I get to take this time to focus on me. And that, like, for me, for so long, I was like, that sounds so selfish. I was like, no, but what about everybody else? Like, what about these girls that I was working with? But really, like, until I decided to fill my cup up first, I couldn't help the people that I wanted to in the way I wanted to. And so when I took that time off, I started doing the little things. Like, it was like the little things. It was like waking up, drinking water before I rushed to my day, instead of just these things that, like, started showing my mind that I was actually worth fighting for, and that I was fighting for myself, because that's what I love about fitness, is it teaches your mind that you're fighting for yourself and you're not giving up. And so it was like over a year, this like slowly starting to do some self-development stuff, not just like patting myself on the back, not just like doing that stuff, but like actually being like, Alisha, who are you and what are you grateful for about yourself? So every single morning I would write out what I was grateful for about myself. Not just like, I love my face, I love my, whatever. It was actually really specific. I was like, okay, I don't get to just like ignore who I am anymore. So I was like, I'm grateful that I have these hands that help me write in my journal and get my thoughts out. Like, I'm grateful for my feet for letting me get through hard times. Getting really specific of who I was and actually being grateful for who I was, because who I was like, yes, at that point, like, hurting and not showing it and not working through those emotions. But I got to go back to the Alisha who was always there. And that's what's amazing about when people are like, oh, yeah, I want a transformation, I want whatever. It's like, no, actually, like, you get to go back to the Alisha, to the person who you always were before the abuse happened, or before the world told you who you were. And that's not just with abuse. That's with a lot of like painful life experiences that we've gone through. When people tell you who to be, and you grow up, you're like, oh, okay, that's who I'm gonna be. But when you actually take that time to relearn who you are, it's an amazing time. And so really, that was the transition. And that's, you know, where I was about a year ago. And now, since then, I've even gone further, opened up my own company to help other women go through this. So,
wow.
yes,
It's been such an incredible story. And I think something that stands out to me in your story is that, what your mom said to you was so, I mean, that is so devastating to hear that was the response.
Yes.
But I also feel that, of course, you know, my faith makes me think that your now fiance coming into your life was instrumental in letting you know that, like, that wasn't what was actually meant for you. Like the abuse and that response were not what you should have received in that moment.
Absolutely.
And like, he brought such an amazing perspective and sort of like kicking the pants for you. Because I think what also stands out to me is, like, you were doing all the things that people would tell you to do, right? Like, go serve, go be of service, go to the, do all those things. You know, use your story, and you were, in a sense, but and I would love for you to kind of speak on this, but you weren't necessarily like claiming your story. Like, you were using it to serve others, but maybe not owning it.
Oh, because when you said, like, I was using my story, I was like, oh no, I would not tell anybody about my story at that point. No, actually, like, because I didn't, so I shared my story for the first time a year ago yesterday, this August was my first time actually sharing my story.
Oh, wow.
Because, yes, I used my story, like not on purpose, but, like, I used my story to relate to the girls who had gone through sex trafficking, because a lot of them had gone through abuse and then gotten into these situations. So I actually started, like, I felt really grateful that I wasn't in a position of getting trafficked and stuff, because I was like, they've gone through abuse. They've done things like sneaking out, doing stuff with guys, going to parties, and that's where they got kidnapped, or that's where they got lured into sex trafficking. So that's why I felt, like, so grateful. But even at that point, I was like, but I don't need to tell my story. Like, I'll just, you know, like, and you know, there was times, to be honest, like, there would be people that I'd be able to feel open to. But most of that time, when I was able actually to share my story, was when I was drunk, or when it was, like, a hard time for me in life. And I would, like, finally tell somebody. But it wasn't until a year ago, but even, like, what I told my story to Eric previously and stuff, but and your point to my mom, like, actually 84% of people aren't believed the first time they tell somebody. And so that statistic, like, is incredible, because that is what leads to a lot of the destruction afterwards. That is what led me to 16 years of abusing myself at that point, and drinking and doing stuff and cutting and all that kind of stuff, is because I wasn't believed, and then I put up a mask even more. And so and then Eric decided to give me that little kick that I needed. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. So for you, how has talking about and sort of voicing this, like, helped you process, but also, like, handle your own sort of, like, grief and loss around this story?
So I had taken the time to work on myself and to grow and to do all this stuff, and I was, like, feeling really amazing, and I'd gone through a lot of healing, and really what I realized for me too was that I needed to take action. Like, I didn't want to just talk about it, because I had gone through counseling actually when I was younger. And so, like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm okay now. And so, like, I thought I was okay. But whenever I would go to a counselor again, they'd be like, oh, tell me your story again. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to just talk about it. So when I started taking action, that's when I saw my results personally. And then when I actually decided that I was working with girls with health coaching. And I was like, okay, I was seeing fitness results. Great, that's awesome. But for me, what was really at the root of why I loved fitness so much was because that it had actually saved my life during the abuse, and then afterwards regaining my confidence in who I was. And so I was like, I don't want to just work with women who've gone through abuse, or not with abuse, for fitness. I want to work with them through abuse. And so I started transitioning, and then I was like, but if I want to work with those women, I need to be honest with myself. I need to share my own story and be vulnerable. And I knew deep down I had this, like, calling to share my story for a long time, but I ignored it. I was like, well, you know, and I got in my head, I was like, well, you know, there's a lot of people who've gone through abuse. And I had heard people, like, you know, tell me, like, why are you still talking about it? Like, you know, it was 16 years ago, like, you shouldn't. And so all those things were in my head. I was like, okay, I'm not that important anyways. Like, why do I need to share my story? But when I finally decided to tell my story, it was amazing to see not only like the transition in myself and like the continued healing process it was, like having more women come to me and share their story, but really like being able to serve other people and help them go through this healing process was amazing, because I was like, I wish I would have had someone like me when I was going through abuse. Honestly, because we try to do it on our own, and in life, like we get hardened by things that have happened to us. And we're like, we don't need anybody, you know, we can do this on our own. And we have done it on our own before. Sure. But it's like, we don't have to. We get support. We get people in our life to walk through life with us. Like, you don't need people in your life. You don't need like a coach. You don't need anybody. But, you know, like, and even coming from like a coach, like, you don't need me. You don't need us, but you do get to have support like that, because we've gone through a lot of this, like similar things that you have, or we've done things to like help us get through it. And we can help you get through it as well. And we just stand there and keep you accountable and to listen. Because like I said, 84% of people aren't even heard the first time. So really like that, it was so relieving. So many of my clients just being like, you actually hear me and you listen. And also you give us actionable steps to continue growing. So that was just really an amazing time when I like started seeing all of my clients just like go through the process of this healing. And then really I go through like the release, reclaim, and rise, like releasing your past. Like it's always going to be a part of you, but it's actually has made you stronger, not broken. And so I go through that release phase, and then reclaiming your life. Like, who are you? Like, what do you actually want to do in life? Like, you are actually so much stronger and more powerful from what you've gone through in life, and you got to use that to fuel you, and then to rise up and to create the life of your dreams. And so it is, supported me through my healing, but also it's just amazing to be able to see women come out of it and realize that they can find healing and freedom.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think for me, what I love when you were telling your story is this idea that both of us use fitness and health to help women heal in very different ways. Yeah. But there is that common thread of not just like going to the gym and working out, not just eating good stuff, but this idea of supporting yourself. It's not about the workout. It's not about the diet or the restriction. It's actually about learning that you are worth taking care of. So from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, you are worth taking care of. And so
worth it.
And so I think you know, both of us have used our stories to say, I started working out and I started seeing these great results, but the actual work is deeper than that. So if you come into our space, come into our space for the workouts and the nutrition, but you're going to get so much more learning how to really heal what's been hurting. And I think that's so, it blows my mind to think of all of the ways that nutrition and health and fitness can heal people. Like, holy crap, there's so many ways.
So many ways. It's an exciting, and it can like seem like intimidating, because you're like, sometimes when you hear like people like talk about it, they're like, oh yeah, then I have to do 45 minutes a day at the gym 7 days a week. You know, it's like, no. Like we're clear. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
We don't do that, you know? And so it's like, what's important to realize, it's like, it's about moving your body to tell your mind you're fighting for yourself. So if that looks like a 5 to 10 minute walk outside every morning, if that looks like a homework, if that looks like yoga, whatever it is, or it might look like going to the gym. But it's not, like you said, it's not necessarily about like exactly like what you're doing. And yes, like seeing finished results is amazing, but it's actually about retelling your mind that you're fighting for yourself, you're not giving up, because our mind is so powerful. Like even getting to that gym, you're driving a vehicle, and how many of us have like not even remembered how we got there? Right. You're like driving a car, and you're like, you drop your kids off at school or whatever, and you're like, how did I even get here? You know, it's like, it's terrible, but our mind's so powerful and it can operate a vehicle. And so why would we not think that it doesn't operate us? And if we don't train it, and if we don't like speak those words of like affirmation over ourselves, and we speak those words of positivity of ourselves, like of course that it's just going to go throughout life with whatever we're watching, with whatever someone said about us, with whatever like we say, you know, the hard things that we say about ourselves, because we are obviously most of the time our own worst critics. And that stops here, because you are perfect just the way you are. And the reason why, you know, you get to grow and you get to learn new things is because like you get to do these things because you can always learn more, you can always grow more and learn from each other. Like we talked before this, and I learned a lot of new things. Like you always have that support, and you don't have to do life on your own. So fitness is the best, like one of the best ways to do that.
That's fantastic. And I think what again, that common thread for both of us is like, we want you to know that you are worthy, know that you should be taking care of yourself because you are worthy, right? But we just use different ways to get there, right? You're helping women who have been abused, and you're teaching them sort of how to get through that story. You know, and I use it in a different sense of like, I use education, and we talk a lot about how God made your body and like how amazing your body is. So it's a different way, but it's all that common, like you're so worth this. So yeah, I love that. Kind of switching gears, I know recently you did a live with your now fiance, which is so exciting. What has it been like for you since this abuse to get intimate with somebody physically and emotionally? What has that like been like for you?
So like you said, I just did this interview with Eric, and it was our first time. We talked. We
so
always
cute.
have these amazing talks, and I was like, nope, we got to do this live. And he was like, why live? I was like, but we just could be real and honest. And so Eric and I have been dating for the last 5 years, and really it started off with like just like a fun relationship, and but I was actually known as the emotionless girl. And so his friends would literally call me, they're like, oh, is that the emotionless girl? And he's like, yeah, that's her. Like, because I would not be able to have like really intimate conversations with him. Like we had fun together, we clearly like really enjoyed being around each other. But I did this with a lot of previous relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships. I would have a lot of them, so that I didn't have to go deep with any of them. And so that they wouldn't really ask me like how I was doing. They wouldn't really ask me the hard questions. And so Eric like started noticing that about me, and so did his friends. And so they like literally called me that. And it's funny looking back now, because now, I'm an open book, and I can talk about these things. But the progress is like I finally started realizing like that he was actually someone safe for me to talk to. And I didn't want to at first, but when he started asking, because he's really close to his family, and so his mom specifically, like, is really close, and they always go to Sunday dinner. I was like, man, like, this guy really loves his like family. I'm like, what is going on? Because I didn't have that relationship with my family.
Yeah, sure, naturally.
Everything that had gone on, and just like, and so I didn't have that, and so it was something I always wanted. So I admired that about him. But really, like, when I felt like I was safe, was he was asking me questions about my family. He's like, hey, like, why don't you ever talk about your family, or what, like, why are you guys not that close? And then he kept on asking me about, and I still tried to avoid the question. I was like, oh yeah, just some things have gone on, and I tried to avoid the question. But then he's like, what about this family member? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, I gotta tell him, I gotta be open and honest. So I did tell him, and his reaction was like, first, like, and we go over this, like, it was like anger. He was like, where is he? Like, I want,
Sure.
And I was like, and my first reaction actually was like, oh no, it's okay. It was not, like, it's not that big a deal. I'm fine. And I still like would try to like make sure he was okay, or like, downplay what actually happened, because I hadn't gone through that healing yet. And so what that led to was him being there for me and supporting me through that. But really that wake up moment was when he was like, okay, Alisha, like, yes, you still have not worked on yourself. And that was probably 2 years into the relationship. And then after that conversation, like, we both started just like growing together like crazy, and doing, working out together, and reading, and doing these like life plan things with each other. But it wasn't all easy. Like, I still had a hard time like letting him in sometimes, and he had gone through, things in his own life. And so it was hard, but, and we even took a time off and realized like we needed to work on ourselves, and ultimately we realized like we were better together. But we like, it was an amazing time, because it was like, yes, we can do life on our own, but we don't want to. And so we got back together, and that was about like 2 years ago. But the progress really was like actually being open and honest with each other, like seeing where you're at, asking hard questions like, hey, like, has anything triggered you recently, or is anything I'm doing triggering you, like any of that stuff. Because even like physically, like, I remember like telling him that like, intimacy and like in sex and all that stuff was like not a big deal to me, because it had been lost at a young age. And my abuser actually didn't, he just would touch and do that kind of stuff, but it had been lost at a young age. And so like, I really didn't think it was a big deal. And so when he, would talk to me about it, I was like, yeah, like it's good, whatever. And he was just like, what's going on there? And I had to explain to him like that it just doesn't, it's not a big deal, and I don't necessarily like enjoy it, because it's just not been something that has been like something that's been special to me. And so like he actually like took that time to rebuild that, and really to like allow me to have my space, but really to like help me understand like that, like, it's actually something that's brought us so close together. So yeah, it's been a long process, but it is absolutely possible. And if you've gone through abuse or anything, like I just want to like let you know, like it is so possible to have a healthy, strong, committed relationship, because we get to have that. If that's something that you desire in your life, you get to have that. And so I want you to know that it is completely possible.
I love it. And I love that you two work together, but also separate, and that you really found, like, again, this like healing and health as a key to, you know, pouring into the rest of your life and being like, I have to be healed and healing, because, you know, you'll always be healing. I have to be healing, and I have to be working on my own health in order for that to pour into this relationship, make this relationship healthy as well. So I think that's great.
I love it you said the healing. It's like, it's a healing journey. It's not a sprint. It's not an overnight thing.
No, my gosh, no.
No.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I do kind of want to talk to you about, especially right now in sort of the climate of things, we're seeing a lot with these stories of abuse coming out and sex trafficking coming to the forefront, which is of course a good thing as we're shedding light on these very real issues. How have you, as a person who's gone through abuse, made sure to guard yourself against getting triggered? How do you do that?
Oh, yes. And so right now it is hard. There's a lot of pain going on in the world. But we do have a choice to use our voices and to stand up right now. So really, like, what helps me is that, yes, I see these stories again and again on my news feed all over. Not enough, to be honest. Like, we're not talking about it enough. And it might seem like it is, like, all the time. But, like, something that actually Blake, was it? No. One of the actors did this video about, like, if the children can go through this, then we can talk about it, and we can be open and honest and tell, like, say what's actually going on. And so I want to encourage you that, yes, like, if children are having to be abused day in and day out in sex trafficking or at home or wherever it is, then we can stand for them. We can talk about it. We can have these hard conversations. And so that's what's really been encouraging me, is that, yes, when I see these films, when I see these things online, it is heartbreaking. And there's just no other way to, like, explain that it is heartbreaking. And for me right now, it doesn't actually trigger anything. It actually makes me want to fight harder, because I know that if you are going through abuse now, or you know somebody who is, and if they're stuck at home, I can't imagine not having school as an outlet. And so my heart breaks for that they don't even have an outlet right now. And so to encourage you guys to keep going and to keep fighting for these children is that your voice does matter. And sometimes we get in our heads, like, what if I'm sharing one post, what does it matter? Like, for instance, like, I did this live the other day and I talked about sex trafficking, and I said, it is no longer okay to act like this does not happen in our neighborhoods. And I talked about, like, you know, we don't get to act like this doesn't happen. And in the US, like, we try to say it's a third world thing. We try to say that it's happening everywhere else. No, it is a huge problem in your neighborhood, and most likely in your neighborhood it's happening. And not to scare you, but it's to educate you, to help your children, like, teach your children to stand up for themselves. Teach your children to have the knowledge of saying no, and that what's inappropriate and appropriate touch. And so if we don't educate our kids, like, this is going to continue to get worse. And if we don't use our voices, this is going to continue to get worse. But everything that's happening in the world, like, we're finally ready to stand up. So that video that I did the other day, I did on Facebook and I posted on Instagram. And usually those get maybe 200 to 400 views. And this one got like 5,000 plus views. And so I want to encourage you that, like, if I decided that, what is my one video going to do? Then 5,000 people would have heard that message about what to do. I gave a lot of really informational tips, but, like, to encourage you guys is, like, I could have been sad and wanted to take, like, I wanted to just, like, take a nap and forget about it. But I was like, no, I'm going to go live and I'm going to say something, and I'm going to continue to say something, because it's not just enough to do that one video. And so we have a choice right now to actually stand up for these children. We have, and sometimes it's like, well, I don't know anyone who has. It's fine. You don't know anyone who has, but it absolutely could be your kid. And so you get to take a stand right now for the kids and for the future kids you might have. And so that's what I'm going to encourage you with, is that we get to take a stand.
Yeah, and I know that you have talked about like places to advocate or resources. Can you really quick kind of, if somebody's watching this and they're like, wait, how do I help? What do I do? Can you give them just a quick
so there's
resource?
amazing places in your community. Like Google has like type in how to help with sex trafficking, because everyone obviously lives in different places. But one of the biggest things, and this actually came from this girl, her name's Alisha too, but she had gone through her story at 13 years old. She was groomed for 9 months, and if you don't know what grooming is, they talked to her online and said that they were her age and that they were like best friends with her, got to know her family, got to know everything that was going on. One night they asked her to come meet her outside of her house for New Year's, like 1 second, just want to say hi. They kidnapped her and raped her and abused her online streaming. And someone saw her picture from a missing child poster and reported it and called in right away. And FBI was actually able to find where that was coming from and rescue her. And so that's like an unbelievable story, but those stories are happening. And so like something you can do right now is to go to missingchild.org and take a picture of people who are in your city, kids, whoever the pictures are of, take them and post them, because you never know who's going to see that. And seeing those faces, they might notice that they're like, oh, I just saw that person at the gas station. I just saw that person in the hotel. So like it does make a difference that we're putting these faces out there. It does make a difference that we're standing, we're sharing things, we're talking about it, we're not ignoring it. So those are things that you can do right now on social media and Facebook. Everyone's like, it's hard because yes, that's where those traffickers are finding kids. But at the same time, we have a choice to make that different. We have a choice to put positivity out there. We have a choice to talk about it.
Absolutely. Wow. And you speak about it so powerfully, and I think that that's just such a wonderful insight into how much healing you have done, that you can speak that. Do you think you started the healing process and then found like working out and fitness, or do you think you started working out and then you found your voice? Like, how did that kind of, or was it all together? Was it a lot of different factors? What kind of created this sort of like powerfulness that you can now stand in and say, we will change this?
I would say it started with the fitness, to be honest, because I think that even when I didn't believe in myself at that time, I was like, I am going to physically stand for myself. I'm going to physically move my body to stand for myself. And it took a long time after that. Not a long time, but I would say like consistency. Like, sometimes usually things happen in 21 days. That's like the time that things become a habit. It's not like perfectly 21 days. We're all different. But like sometimes we're like, oh, I was in the gym for 7 days. I was in the gym for 10 days and I didn't see any results. But we have to keep going because like I saw those results after, months or whatever, being consistent. And then I started being like, no, like I'm actually strong physically. And this actually helped me be strong mentally. And then it helped me every single day. And even today, like I notice the days that I don't work out and the days that I do work out.
Sure.
In my like demeanor, in my like positivity, in my confidence. And so it's really important to like make sure that you have that in your routine, because I think that's the fitness, because sometimes you're not ready necessarily to use your voice to stand for yourself. And to be honest, like not everyone has to share their story online. Like that's not, it's not everyone's calling. But you do get to find someone who actually hears you and believes you and can stand with you. But the reason why like I think fitness was first for me was because it taught my body to stand up, it taught my body to be strong, and then my voice followed.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And I think that really does show how powerful, when we start talking about fitness and movement, everybody's brain, as far as like generally speaking females, we all kind of are like, oh yeah, I want a bikini body. That's what we start thinking of. We always think of like, I want to be this size, or I want to fit into this outfit or whatever, and really realizing no, the impact of going to the gym and lifting weight or doing cardio or doing the hard thing and getting through it, and then realizing how powerful and strong you are, pours into the rest of your life. It doesn't just stop at the gym. And I think that is really powerful. And I think that your story of redemption, basically, of saying like, yes, this terrible thing happened to me, but I am going to use it in this really powerful way to help other women is just such a blessing to the world. I think that it's fantastic. So
because when you realize like that your past actually has made you stronger and you can change your mindset behind it, you're able to start looking at things differently. You're able to start realizing like, actually, I'm not broken. I'm not abused. I'm not, or not abused, that's not the right word, because yes, you have gone through something like that. And this goes from abuse, sexually, physically, and mentally. But really, you start realizing, no, it has actually taught me something, and I can do hard things. Because it's not saying that, okay, all of a sudden even if you have a coach and you do all this stuff and you do everything, quote unquote, perfectly, that it's going to be easy. But you can do hard things. You've gone through a lot in your life, and you got to realize that, that's made you stronger to continue to do hard things, to continue to fight for yourself, and to have people around you that, believe in you.
I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I loved this conversation. I love how open and honest you are. Can you really quickly just tell everybody where they can find you? If they're like, oh, I got to get more of this girl.
Yes. If you want to continue in this conversation and you want to find this healing and freedom yourself, reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Alisha, and I spell my name differently. So it's ALISHA _ We Lift to Rise. Or on Facebook, Alisha G, so ALISHA again, and then GEE. But just reach out to me. We can have a conversation, and if I think something that I offer is the best for you, I will absolutely tell you, but I'm always open and honest and say, hey, maybe this would be better for you right now. So we get that kind of support and honesty and love in our life, and you are not alone.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, thank you so much.